Here we go.
Perfect. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm so pleased to be able to address today's topic with you all, along with three of very talented department campaign managers you're about to hear from. As Liz said, my name is Torchia. I'm a retired federal employee, a former department campaign manager with DOD. I represented DOD on the CFC 50 Commission. Amongst other stories I've heard today, a past loan executive. I served on 3 different local federal coordinating committees during my federal career, and I currently serve as the headquarters fundraising team's project director for the Global Impact Tribal Tech Outreach Coordinator, spanning the last 7 years. Next slide, please. So on a biweekly basis for about a year now, the department level campaign managers have identified, as identified by key players by OPM, have really come together to share best practices, raise concerns, and overcome challenges in that group setting. So in these scenarios, we encourage the department campaign managers to meet with their field office or local campaign managers as a group unit across all zones that they participate in. And we really encourage them to include the contract staff of each applicable outreach coordinator as designated by OPM. We've seen some great partnership with departments and agencies like United States Postal Service and Department of Homeland Security. For instance, bringing their federal field offices and OC staff together to coordinate their department agency office designations, those of you know as DAO, and then to also normalize departmental messages across department offices. There's always a reminder given to allow for localizations of events and messaging specific to local zone areas for those local zones that express that interest. So we'll see some topics and examples of that in a bit. Separate from these department campaign manager meetings, we also hold monthly meetings, which actually were more closely related to real-time trainings. All zone campaign managers within our Global Impact Tribal Tech zones meet for ongoing training sessions, during which campaign leadership from different zones share their latest updates and address issues experienced by their teams. So in real time, our marketing support team demonstrates a tool or strategy that campaign managers can use to implement to conduct outreach and generate and engage among donors at their agencies. Next slide, please. So I'm not going to read all these bullets to you, but they're all in the spirit of supporting and assisting one another. At every step of the way, we believe these collaborative efforts listed here on this page get us to the last line on the page. We truly are stronger together. And again, always reminding that department level across the zone coordination should include all zones where a department footprint exists and include both outreach coordinator staff as applicable. We've seen the power of how campaign managers can support each other, coach each other, and really benefit from each other's experiences. Next slide, please. So continuing in the spirit of supporting and assisting each other, what does OPM really want from all this collaboration, you might ask? Well, the first 2 bullets mention nationwide opportunities, but always retaining local flavor in the process while establishing that consistency. So you'll see grow participation here, as well as grow the campaign worker base. So the effort to grow stronger doesn't only mean donors, but campaign workers as well. And with the latter, we come to that natural progression to the last few bullets, securing the future of the program by developing leadership and ensuring its growth and presence through succession. Big, important piece. Next slide, please. So these are just a few of the topics that you're going to hear from your Department of National Headquarters campaign managers today and that have been discussed previously. They've been working on these since the end of the 22 campaign. I've listed a few of the key organizations leading those discussions over the past almost year, but in reality, many organizations were involved in this process, and the department campaign managers' totals have been growing as word about the effort gets around, so we're really pleased about that. You'll see 3 of these topics that are asterisked, and that's because you're about to meet and hear from the folks who develop these briefings with the hope that these efforts have the potential to better the program overall in the long run. And from the collaboration I've seen so far, honestly, everyone will be able to benefit from what you're about to hear. Next slide, please. So you'll be hearing from some real, genuine rock stars here in the remainder of our allotted time. Some of the most recognized CFC advocates in the program with a passion for service and a passion for people. We'll hear from Alex Muschek, from the Department of Homeland Security on one of his key efforts in consolidating the many, many versions of FAQs out there that CMs can use and adjust to their needs as necessary. We'll be hearing from the Department of Commerce's David Zaiya, who painstakingly worked with colleagues and staff to negotiate some brand new ideas and processes for consideration for DAO, improving the DAO efforts. And then finally from Debra Gale, who really has consistently kept the National Institute of Health Human Services at the top of their game with regards to results and planning. They've each worked hand in hand to assure a really cohesive message along the department's campaign managers for consideration. And please give these folks the undivided attention they deserve. First up is Debra.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lou. Next slide, please, Liz. So again, as Lou has stated, my name is Debra Gale. I am with the National Institutes of Health, and I am the program manager / deputy campaign manager. And it really is an honor to be here with you all today. And as Lou had stated, during our national campaign managers meetings, we have an opportunity to be able to share and learn from each other about the different things that are going on, within our agencies. So today, what I want to talk about, next screen, please, is pretty much just talk about a resource tool that we have at the NIH that we start with. And what we provide our new teams, because every year our team is rotated on an annual basis. The NIH is comprised of 27 different components, which we call institutes and centers, or ICs. And so each year, one of the 27 ICs will lead the campaign. So we're starting fresh, with a new lead every year. So one of the things we want to do is just provide them with a tool. And what this resource guide is just that. It's a resource guide that just pretty much just gives them an overall snapshot of the campaign. We talk a little bit about the CFC because we have to keep in mind, and we try to design our resource guide for novice campaign workers as well as seasoned, because we always can't assume that everybody knows about the CFC. People get excited about wanting to help, but we want to make sure that they have the tools and the resources available for them. So these are just some of the contents that are some of the items that are located in our resource guide. We talk about the CFC, what it's all about, the structure of the CFC, the official solicitation period, because you got to know when it starts and you have to know when it ends. The regulatory governance, because Vince had also talked about the structure like of the LFCC. In case someone wants to ask you, what is the structure? OPM being at the helm of it, what is the structure of that? We also really get into our agency structure. What is the leadership structure? And then pretty much getting started, some of our action items, we get into our communications plan, planning events and so forth, and also having a debriefing meeting. So the next slide. So one of the things that we start with at NIH is identifying our structure. What is the structure of your CFC? The NIH leadership is always at the top. We also have campaign managers that we identified. We have about 80 coordinators throughout NIH because we have the 27 ICs that are there. And then within those 27 ICs, we have about 600 key workers. So when you really need to define what your structure looks like, because your leadership will definitely set the tone of what the CFC is going to be like for that particular year. So the next slide, please. So we want to develop a communications plan. So when we sit down with our new team and go over not only the structure of what the campaign is going to look like, the leadership, we want to devise a communication plan. What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And when are we going to be able to execute those kinds of things? So when you're looking at your agency and when you're just getting started and trying to develop some best practices, think about what you want to do. Think about how many activities do you want to have reasonable? How many can you really accommodate throughout the year? At NIH, we normally start with a kickoff. We have a kickoff, and then we'll have a fall charity fair, and then we'll instruct our ICs and guide them to have some different activities within their ICs as well. Then we want to know, how do we want to promote those kinds of things? Use whatever promotion mechanism that you have available, your kiosks, your intranets. So develop some type of an action plan. And when are you going to do those things? Look at your calendar of events. Look at the things that are also going on within the year, because the CFC is from September 1 to January the 15th. So at NIH, there's a lot of activities that are going on during that period of time. So when we are looking at when we're going to host our kickoff or other activities, we want to make sure that there are not any competing activities that are going alongside, with the CFC. So make sure that you have a strategy plan. Get your leadership involved. I cannot say that enough. Get your leadership involved so that they will continue to set the tone of the CFC. Because normally when your high-level leadership attends certain types of events, more than likely employees will follow suit. Next slide, please. So you need to know when you get started, where are you located? The CFC has 36 different zones. Know exactly where employees are located so you can, again, develop your plan of action. So we know that NIH, we are located in 5 zones. We have a small presence in zones 9 and 10. We have one of our ICs that is actually situated in the Carolinas. And we also have a small presence in zone 31. But of course, our largest presence is in zone 32. So make sure when you're getting started that you know exactly where people are located so you can develop that plan of action to be able to reach everyone. Next slide. It's also important when we start meeting with our campaign and we start developing our teams, we want to make sure that we have the resources available for them. Think about how you're going to train campaign workers. You must train people in order for them to know exactly what's going on so that everyone is on the same page. You may have a campaign worker that was here prior to the different changes that took place in 2017. So you want to make sure that people are up to speed and up to date on the current CFC rules and regulations. Recruit coordinators and also your key workers. Again, at NIH, we have about 80 coordinators that are divided within the 27 ICs and also our 600 key workers. We want to be able to make sure that all of them get trained. It may take some time, to get everyone trained, but you want to make sure that everyone is on the same page. If you're not sure about how to do and what to do with your current campaign, reach out to folk who were involved with last year's campaign. So review what worked in your previous campaigns and see if you can bring that over to this year's campaign. You want to make sure that you're always providing the guidance and how to promote the CFC. Next slide, please. Have an understanding of what the giving options are. So when you're developing your teams, you're now training your campaign workers, make sure that they're also familiar with the giving options. There's different giving options for different people. We have the online system that's always available, that's always easily accessible. The paper pledge form, even though we don't use it a lot at NIH, it is still available because we also have to remember those folk that are not necessarily sitting at computers. We have our first responders. Our first responders are not always at computers. So we want to make sure that we provide, resources for them as well. So make sure that you have an understanding of the paper pledge form, what you can do with the paper pledge form, versus the online system. The giving app is always important as well because folk like quick things. So the mobile giving app is also another great resource. And let's not forget about the volunteer opportunities. So when you are developing your teams and you're getting your plan of action together, make sure that you have these resources available for them as well, just so they know and can be able to show the different giving mechanisms. Next slide, please. It's all about the charities. Monica Hansen, who's one of my colleagues that are here, we talked about, I believe at the first training session, talked about successful fundraising events, building successful fundraising events. One of the things that we have stressed, and I'm going to stress again now, is don't forget about the charities. The charities are so important. So make sure when you are planning any type of event that you have, that you are going to include the charities. Know the system, know the process for requesting charities. I know at the CFC NCA, we have a 14-day advance that we have to request charities. But also remember, the CFC, what is so great about the CFC is that they provide other resources for us. So if you're not able to fit that 14-day window in to request a charity, make sure that you take advantage of the other resources, which are charity videos and success stories, which are readily available on the CFC website on demand. So make sure when you're going through your plan, when you're trying to figure out your leadership structure, and then what types of events that you're going to have, make sure that you don't forget to include the charities in there as well. Next slide, please. So another thing you also want to include in your plan of action is the digital resources. There are so many digital resources that are available for you. Of course, here I'm using the 2022 marketing because the 2023 marketing has not been made available for us yet. But the marketing materials, I believe in one of the other trainings, they talk about all the marketing resources that are available. And another great thing about the CFC, the marketing materials this year are customized. You can tailor those types of posters and things. You can insert employees, your own employees within those marketing materials. So make sure that you take advantage of the resources that are available. They will be providing different toolkits. So in your plan of action and even in your communication plan, make sure that you're also including the different toolkits. This is another valuable resource for you. So again, every year, our leadership is different every year. So we want to make sure that people don't just assume, and we don't want to assume that folk are knowledgeable about the different resources that are available. So when you're in your planning stage, make sure that you're also including the digital resources that are available on the website. Next slide, please. Don't forget about the awards and recognition. Make sure when you're throughout your campaign that you are recognizing employees, you are recognizing staff for the hard work that they are putting in to make sure that your campaign runs successfully. There are different recognition, digital downloadable information that is available on the CFC NCA website or CFC Give website, where you have different award digital certificates that you can download, because every year, there's a contest, and every year, I know with the CFC NCA, there's a contest. You want to make sure that you are familiarizing folk with that. The Institute and our centers, we make sure that they get the awards that based upon their achievement. There's always a President's Award, Chairman's Honor, or Merit Award. So make sure that when you're going through and recognizing employees, that even small milestones, celebrate successes. So we tell all of our ICs, because NIH, we will have a particular goal, and each of our 27 ICs will have a particular goal that reaches our overall goal. So we tell our coordinators, if you reach 10% of your goal, celebrate your successes, because we want to make sure that folk are thanked and that they appreciate all the things that they're doing for the campaign. We also go a step ahead. With all of our key workers, we provide a certificate of appreciation for all of them. So please recognize, folk, when you're also developing your campaign plan. The Eagle and Double Eagle Awards, you don't want to forget that. That's also a part of the recognition. And we tell our coordinators it is an honor system. If someone reaches out to you and said that they qualify for an Eagle Award, you don't need receipts. You just make sure that you're getting them the awards that they need. So next slide, please. So the last thing I want to leave with you all is, while you are developing your campaign plans, whether you are a new campaign worker or whether you are a seasoned campaign worker, make sure that you have fun with this. Don't make it as if it is a chore. Even if you are voluntold to do this, make sure that you have fun. Make sure that you celebrate your successes, because it is all about the charities. We want to raise as much funds as we can for the charities because we know they have such an awesome mission, and collectively together, our impact does make a difference. So I hope some of the things that I've shared, a lot of the things that I have shared has made NIH successful in our events, because we start with our leadership, because we want to make sure that our leadership is always involved with whatever we do with our campaign. So I hope what I've shared today will be able to help you as you move forward and start building your campaign. So now I have the honor and the privilege of turning this over to David. David is going to talk a little bit about the DAO report and other things.
Okay. Thank you, Deborah. And so I just want to give everybody out there in the audience just a little behind the scenes. Alex and I were drawing straws over who was going to follow Deborah, and now you know why. Unfortunately, I drew the short straw. So Alex gets to follow me. He's going to look really good compared to that. But, you know, it's so great to hear Deborah's perspective. And every time I hear her go through that, I always learn something new. So thank you, Deborah. Thank you. So as Deborah said, I'm going to talk about the DAO process and the beast as it is, and how we've been working through it last couple of years. But I want to set a little bit of a context first before we do that. So if you could go to the next slide, please, Liz. So one thing that I was departmental campaign manager for the Department of Commerce for the last 2 years, and I was the census chair for about 5 years before that, 4 years, I guess, before that. And, you know, it's really different when you think about how you're running things from a bureau perspective to an overall department perspective, especially a fairly large department like the Department of Commerce. And what I realized early on, but not early enough, unfortunately, was that we needed a holistic approach, that we needed to get folks involved. And when you see, as Deborah mentioned, get leadership involved, she's absolutely right. You got to get your leadership involved because you need them to help carry the message and help reinforce why we're given to the CFC and why we have these goals and why all this matters. And like Deborah said, just, you know, so simply, it's for the charities. It's for the people that need the help. So what we want to do is give everyone an opportunity to participate. And it was strange to me, and I say strange because I didn't really think about it at first, but when we started providing reports and information about our campaign early on in the 21 season, you know, we'd have these meetings at the department and they would say, well, how are we doing as a department versus just the national capital area, which was kind of my primary focus. And we had to kind of, you know, get more information and figure that out. So in the 2022 campaign, we did a better job of looking at it from a national departmental perspective first, so that we could make sure that we got to everyone within the department. And that's why I say, you know, leadership sees it that way and we need to too. So if we go to the next slide, it's also very important that you have good reporting. You know, when we're tracking information and you know, when it comes to the DAO process, we get the information as campaign managers and we say, why? Why do we need to collect all this? What happens? You know, behind the scene, you want to make sure that people who are donating are able to see their donations reflected within their organization. We have a lot of competition out there now for charitable funds. Feds Feeds Families in and of itself is a great tool because if you go and you contribute, you see the little scroll down and you can see right, boom, right there. There's a new donation that was made. One thing that I think we've struggled with within the CFC, and I'm happy to say that I know the folks in OPM are working on this, is being able to better align and better allocate those donations in more of a real-time effort so that we can see that more immediate and get that satisfaction and let our employees know that, yes, we've gotten your donation, it is recorded and it will get credit. So, you know, to the extent that we had to fill in the gaps a little bit in terms of creating some Power BI reports and being able to show things, that was wonderful for our agency because it really gave the whole department an opportunity to look at things and see where they were. You know, but that, of course, is not my forte. I come to the Department of Commerce from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, where I work primarily in field operations. So, you know, I'm definitely not the one to put together a Power BI report and that kind of stuff, but I had people that did, and they were very good people that did it. We had a lot of people throughout the department. Of course, Commerce is very heavy in data, especially at the Census Bureau and BEA, but we get the right people to get what we needed. And like I said, OPM has got more plans for more frequent and national organizational level reporting. I'm going to be very excited to see when it comes out. If you want to go to the next slide, please. So kind of DAO, kind of more why I'm here. Why it's important to think about the DAO is because you got to think about it from your donor's perspective. When an employee decides that they want to give to the CFC, we have to, again, make sure we understand that, one, there's other competition out there. And a lot of the, I'll say, less seasoned, newer employees that are coming in may not think about the CFC, or they've been doing more volunteer work, or their focus is different than folks like me with the gray hair that have been around a while and just give to the CFC because it's a thing to do and because we believe in it and that kind of stuff. So we got to make sure that we make it easy. We got to make sure that we value their time and their effort. And by doing that, we're making sure that we are also, like Debra said, appreciating them. It's very, very important. I just want to emphasize that. It's very, very important that we take the time to thank them and to let them know how much we really appreciate their donation. But if they go into the portal and they can't find their organization and they don't know where to contribute, that's a problem. Because then you run the risk that folks lose interest and they move on, or they just say, you know what, this is a pain, I'm not going to worry about it. But so you want to make it easy. So that's why it's important to, when you're looking at your departmental, agency, organizational codes, to make sure you've got a current reflection of the way your organization is set up. And it's worth putting that time in up front to make sure that you've got those organizational organizational realignments or the name changes or whatever it is ready in the system, ready to go by the beginning of September, so that when the portal opens, your employees can go in and they can easily see, okay, I work in my office at Census, it's called PPSI. I work there, I see it, boom, I hit the code and we're good to go. It's also very important to understand that, as Debra said, participation awards and recognition. We do have a participation awards in the National Capital Area. I don't know if every zone does that or does it in the same way, of course, but we have participation awards. And one thing that I also learned about the Department of Commerce and being the departmental campaign manager was that there's a little bit of competition between the bureaus and even subcomponents within the bureaus. And, they really paid attention to who was hitting the mark first and who hit their goal first. And to the point that people were, we would go and recommend goals and organizations would come back to us and say, hey, no way, I don't know that I can make that goal. I want to do this. And it's like, well, no, wait a minute. If you look at it from a proportional basis, we think you could be here. And, so there's a negotiation there, but that participation awards are important for us. And that's why it's important to have your DAO structure in place. That's why it's so important also to get your FTE counts, because those are what are used to be a basis and a gauge for whether you've met 100% or 110% or 200% or exactly everything that it is in terms of what we're looking for the awards. And like I said, it takes a lot of work, but you get to know your human resources division very well. Sit down with them and have conversations and make sure they understand the importance of this and why it needs to be accurate. And also your other bureaus or your other campaign managers as to why we do track this and why it is important, because again, we want to think about it from the donor's perspective. When they go to give that $5, that $10, that $100, whatever it is, they want to be able to see that their contribution mattered. They want to be able to see it in the bar graphs or in the barometer charts or wherever it is that we're displaying are the results of our campaign. They want to make sure that they're recognized there and their investment counts. So, that's why it's important. And then my last slide is, I kind of reiteration of what Debra was saying. This is work. This is a lot of work, but it's meant to be fun. And I'm so glad Debra ended on that, because for me, public service is wonderful. We're helping people every day. But to work with the CFC, I got to say it's probably a highlight. It's definitely a highlight of my federal career, especially as a national campaign manager for the last couple of years, because I felt like I really touched people. But we also got to have fun. We put on a Family Feud contest, and we're already talking about what we're going to do again for this year with that. We had Who Wants to Be a Millionaire contest. You know, there's pet photo contest. There's all these kind of things to make it fun and to make it engaging. And you know, you don't have to be the most creative person out there. Just find the people that are, and they'll want to help and stuff. And you know, Debra said the resources that the CFC and OPM have provided are just wonderful. You know, a plethora of resources. I throw that word in there to make my 9th grade English teacher happy about using one of my vocabulary words for the day. But you know, it is a lot. It's a lot and almost overwhelming at first, but you can take it, you can customize it. I think the marketing folks have done a great job in giving us things that we can use from that. And like Debra also said, the CFC community is about sharing time, talent, treasures. You know, they're plagiarism. I don't know that we use that word in CFC and in the campaign circles, because everyone just is volunteering to use their to provide their information and use their information. So, you know, don't be hesitant to ask. Please reach out to your fellow campaign managers and anyone else that's here, you know, willing to help and that sort of stuff. And like Debra said, you know, the thank you is so important. So I want to thank you, first of all, for your attention. I want to thank Lou and Curtis for the invite to be on this panel with Debra and Alex, two people that I've grown very fondly of in our campaign manager meetings, and that was a pleasure to have to work with. And I want to thank you all for the work you're going to do and everything you're doing to support the effort, because it is ultimately the people that we help. It's, you know, in some cases it could be life-saving. Other ways it could just be gratifying. So thank you for that. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Alex and let him take this panel home.
So good afternoon, everybody. As mentioned, my name is Alex. I'm from the Department of Homeland Security. Just real quick, one of the things that David did not mention is the fact that they had me going last because they realized that if I was on first, everybody else would have signed off and there would be nobody here to see the important part. But again, thank you to everybody who stayed on and is going to be participating in this upcoming campaign. So with that being said, next slide, please. So over the past few weeks, you've received training on various topics ranging from things as easy as hosting a campaign event to things that are more complex concepts, such as the importance of the accuracy of your DAO. There has been a lot to learn, and some of you may still have some lingering questions. Hopefully, if there's anything you're still unsure of, you'll be able to reference this document to answer your questions moving forward. So what are the frequently asked questions? I know everyone knows what frequently asked questions are. So what are we talking about here? What we've developed is a comprehensive list of commonly asked questions that we've received from donors over the past few years. And these questions and answers are intended to enhance the efficiency, ensure consistent information, and empower employees to make informed decisions, address those common concerns, and reduce the workload on campaign workers. By leveraging the convenience of frequently asked questions, we can effectively support employees' understanding and participation, making the process a lot smoother and more accessible for everyone involved. So why now? Why the need for new frequently asked questions? As I believe Lou may have mentioned earlier, there are several frequently asked questions out there that do currently exist, but some of them are incomplete and they're not always easy to find. And if you spend any amount of time supporting the campaign, whether it be a campaign manager, OC, campaign worker, you've noticed that there are a handful of questions that tend to come up time and time again. And you've also noticed the amount of time that it takes to repeatedly answer those same questions. So we realized that an efficient way to deliver this information to the widest possible audience was to develop this comprehensive list, written from the perspective of brand new donors that could be made available to anyone who wants to see it when they want to see it. One of the goals we had when we were creating this was to create a resource that was that an employee with no prior knowledge of the CFC from any department can review at any time and setting of their choosing and making an informed decision about making a contribution. So this will help to reduce the need for repeated training sessions. And as you might see momentarily, people won't ask questions even if they're unsure about something, even when they have the opportunity to do so. So we're in these training sessions. We may ask, there will be a point where people will be able to answer or ask questions, and they might not do it, which is perfectly fine. I know I've been guilty of it and more than once, but it does happen. So this you'll be able to take on your own, read it at your own convenience, and it will help to make sure that these answers or questions are answered. So what will be answered? What will be contained in these frequently asked questions? So again, it'll address a lot of common concerns and misconceptions that employees have about participating in the campaign. It provides answers to questions regarding tax implications, how to receive credit for volunteer service, various options donors can make to make contributions, as well as information pertaining to hosting events and a lot more. By proactively addressing these concerns, the frequently asked questions help to alleviate reservations or really any sort of uncertainties and promotes trust in the campaign. Will the frequently asked questions contain new information? So the information in the current frequently asked questions may actually be new to some people, as it may be the first time that they've had exposure or even had the opportunity to have their questions addressed. Nevertheless, the frequently asked questions will evolve along with the campaign as the information changes from one season to the next. So too will the frequently asked questions. So each year, each season, it would be good to take a look to see what is contained in the latest and greatest version. What if you have a question that's not included in the frequently asked questions? Campaign managers, OCs, or anybody else that's going to be overseeing or supporting the campaign are encouraged to provide their contact information in the frequently asked questions so donors can ask them any questions that are not covered. And if you have any questions yourselves, you're encouraged to reach back out to us and see if we can include them in future iterations. Now, what if I want to include questions or answers that are specific to my organization? That would be great because, as we all know, some answers to some questions will vary from one department to the next. The frequently asked questions that we've developed will have a section for campaign managers to customize to fit their respective campaigns. So that could be any questions such as, how regularly will contribution data be shared? Will this annual event occur this year? What is the policy regarding administrative leave for our respective organizations? You'll have the space in the frequently asked questions to put your own specific departmental or organizational specific information. Next slide, please. So here are a few of the key benefits to this frequently asked questions. Again, it'll improve efficiency. Donors do not need to attend training to ask questions or receive information. Realistically, as campaign managers and OCs, you'll have the ability to answer more questions simply by making the frequently asked questions available than you would by scheduling repeated training sessions. And by addressing these common questions up front, it streamlines the information dissemination process and saves time for both employees and campaign coordinators. Consistency. There's a little forgot a word typing here, but it eliminates discrepancies that may arise from different coordinators with varying explanations to the same questions. We've all experienced significant changes over the past years, leaving many donors and campaign workers unsure how the changes have impacted the CFC. And these frequently asked questions will help to address these concerns and kind of help everybody ensure that we're all on the same page. We know what is or is not permissible, how contributions are collected, how they're used, and so forth. It'll just, again, make sure as things continue to evolve, there's consistency across the board and everybody is aware of these new updates. There's flexibility. Questions must be answered even when nobody is available to answer them. The frequently asked questions accomplishes this because it can be accessed by anybody, anytime, anywhere. It empowers the donors. It allows donors to navigate the campaign's intricacies at their own pace, which helps them to make informed decisions. And by providing self-service access to the information, the frequently asked questions list encourages employees to take an active role in supporting charitable causes. It's scalable, which is going to be important with a lot of these campaigns expanding and support being with managers having responsibility for greater and larger areas of responsibility. The frequently asked questions can be adapted to fit the needs of any size area of responsibility. And many campaign workers, as I mentioned, are expected to support larger areas of responsibility this year and may not necessarily have established lines of communication in many areas. Not only will the frequently asked questions help to supplement your messaging, but by including your contact information in the custom section, it will enable employees to share their information to be included in future messaging. For instance, I know we have a lot in Homeland Security with Customs and Border Protection and Border Patrol. We have dozens and dozens of little tiny outposts, Border Patrol stations, so forth, all along the borders where they don't regularly have messaging delivered to them. They may not have any idea who their points of contact are. They may not know who they need to go to for information at all. By simply sharing this and putting it out there, not only will they have, again, this information, but they'll see, oh, I need to contact, David or Debra Gale for information, and they have that and they can reach out. I think one of the greatest benefits to it is that it's a force multiplier, really reduces the workload. No matter what your role is with CFC, chances are it will be in addition to your regular day-to-day job, as well as any other responsibilities that are on your plate. By providing readily available information, the frequently asked question list minimizes the need for repetitive responses to common questions. This enables campaign workers to focus on personalized support, assisting employees with specific concerns, and organizing engagement activities that enhance the overall campaign experience. Next slide, please. The important part here is to share this with everybody. Again, this is written from the perspective of the donor who may not have any information at all about the campaign. This is not necessarily intended just for campaign workers or campaign managers to supplement their own messages or their own training. This is meant to be the catch-all so that people can have access to that information no matter what their circumstances, whether or not they're near a computer, whether or not they're near, they're in a random outpost, or whatever their situation may be. This is here to help them out. So they'll attach it in your signature blocks, put it in your department's intranet sites, whatever you can do. I would sincerely recommend sharing this far and wide. With that being said, my portion of this was very, very brief. I believe at this point we would be opening it up to questions for this block of the training. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. I do have a question that came in, and this could go to Lou or anyone on the panel. How can we utilize the national campaign managers to solicit and encourage employees to join local LFCCs?
Thanks, Curtis. So, I mean, it really all boils down to something I think Terry and Jennifer said in the last session, which was you have to know who's out there. You have to find the people. And I think David addressed that earlier today as well, saying, we coordinate it, but we got to find the people who are creative. We got to find the people who want to manage. We got to find the people who really show this as a passion and want to volunteer and perform. The only way you do that is by talking about the program, talking about the mission, supporting the mission, and finding out those folks who have common interest, and then trying to get them involved as best you can. Alex, any ideas? I know you're trying to do that across zones at this point in time.
We're getting people to, maybe not in LFCC, but to participate and be a part of the campaign. We're trying to establish and formalize some of the recruitment measures, as well as, for instance, with loan executives, attempting to formalize and classify even the position description, so that it adds a little bit of more credibility, a little more validity to these positions, thereby hopefully allowing or encouraging managers, directors, and so forth to allow participation. I know there's a lot of reluctance for a lot of managers, a lot of leadership to allow their employees to participate in these long-term, upwards of 6-month detail assignments with nothing that necessarily is provided on the back end. There's no SF50, any kind of, no real documentation with it. But if we formalize this and we start really making this something that's, part of like a developmental program, a leadership program, you get credit for it, it ends up on your EOPF. I think it will have a great impact on our recruitment efforts. So hopefully we'll see some more of that moving forward.
And then Curtis, we heard from Linda Siegel last session as well, and I'm kind of in the same boat. We started as loaned executives and kind of graduated, if you will, to campaign management, and then, or in Linda's case, she started as campaign manager, and then we were able to get on the governing boards and take specific assignments like that. We were lucky enough to be on the CFC 50 commission as well when we tried to modernize through technology back in 2011, I believe it was. We were somewhat successful. There's certainly a long way to go, probably time for a new commission or at least a total revamp, but that's a conversation for another day. But internally, the program, going from campaign worker to campaign leader to loaned executive to policy governance is certainly a great path for career progression too, and sets you up for post federal employment if that's something that you desire.
Thank you, Lou. Any other questions for any of our panelists? Tony, do you have any questions in your chat?
Curtis, I don't have any other questions down here. I think the only thing I would probably mention, I know Linda and Lou both sort of and Vince made reference to the transition plan that they have to bring the Chesapeake Bay and National Capital Area zones together. If any other LFCCs are talking with each other about this, the only time of the year that we can make that change happen is at the beginning of an application cycle. So they're going to do a transition this fall, but in this year's campaign, we're certainly still going to have 2 distinct charity lists for Chesapeake Bay and National Capital Area because charities applied at the beginning of the year that way. So you'll start to see that transition in the 2024 application year that is only around the corner. So if any other LFCCs are talking in that term and want to make any changes, we need to do it at the beginning of that 2024 application season.
Thank you. And one thing that I would like to add with the National Campaign Managers Committee is that, even a number of us have been doing this for years, and we kind of have things, we think we have it pretty tight. And then you come to a meeting like this and you hear how things are done in a different agency, the creativity or things you never would have dreamt that you could do. And it's very eye-opening. So it's a wonderful way to partner with folks who are working at the same level, at a headquarters level, and striving to get more activity going, not just locally, but out in the field as well. So it's really a pleasure working with Alex, Debra, and David, as well as the many other campaign leaders that are out there. I did get a question about getting a list of all the national campaign managers. So if somebody wanted to reach out and be able to look for help for getting an LFCC member or recruiting at the local level. So we'll be sure to include that in the handout materials that we send out to everybody. All right, I'm going to say going once, going twice for last questions for this panel or for our previous panel as well. Okay, hearing none, I'm gonna go ahead and say we're gonna adjourn for today. I want to thank everybody who presented today and for being a part of this training. We will be meeting again tomorrow at 2 o'clock Eastern for our final day of training, where we're going to talk about loaned executives. And then we're going to have breakout sessions for federal employees only, where they're going to meet with their outreach coordinators. So I hope you all will plan on joining us, and we will get you all the videos and the slides at the end of the week, similar to how we did it with the first week of training. So have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thanks.
Appreciate your attention. Thank you.
Bye.